On March 31, 1993, a prop gun fired on a dimly lit film set. The actor fell, but the camera kept rolling. No one realized that Brandon Lee, son of the legendary Bruce Lee, had just been fatally wounded. This wasn't in the script. This was real, and it would forever change the course of Hollywood history. The Lee story. Bruce Lee burst onto the Hollywood scene in 1966, starring as Kato in The Green Hornet. Born in San Francisco in 1940, the martial arts prodigy moved to Hong Kong as a child before returning to America at 18. His groundbreaking role paved the way for Asian actors in Western cinema. In 1971, Bruce's frustration with Hollywood led him back to Hong Kong. There, he starred in The Big Boss, which shattered box office records. Over the next 2 years, he made 3 more films: Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. Tragedy struck on July 20, 1973. At just 32, Bruce died from cerebral edema. His sudden death shocked fans worldwide and fueled countless conspiracy theories. Brandon Lee entered the world on February 1, 1965, in Oakland, California. Growing up, the youngster showed little interest in following his father's path. Instead, he pursued acting and studied theater at Emerson College in Boston. After Bruce's death, Brandon and his mother, Linda, moved to Los Angeles. At 20, he landed his first role in the TV film Kung Fu the Movie, 1986. In a 1986 interview with Bobby Wygant, Brandon reflected on his decision to act. "I think I always knew I'd end up in the entertainment industry somehow." His breakout came in 1992 with Rapid Fire. The action flick showcased Brandon's martial arts skills and charisma. Critics noted his potential to become a major star. In late 1992, Brandon signed on for his biggest role yet, Eric Draven in The Crow. Based on James O'Barr's graphic novel, the dark fantasy seemed poised to launch him into superstardom. Little did anyone know, fate had other plans. As filming began in Wilmington, North Carolina, Brandon threw himself into the role. He trained intensively and helped shape his character. The Crow was set to be his defining moment, a chance to step out of his father's shadow and forge his own legacy in Hollywood. The making of The Crow. In 1989, James O'Barr's graphic novel The Crow hit shelves. The dark tale of love, loss, and vengeance struck a chord with readers. Hollywood soon came calling. Paramount Pictures initially acquired the film rights. However, the project languished in development hell. In 1992, Miramax subsidiary Dimension Films stepped in, breathing new life into the adaptation. Alex Proyas, an Australian director known for music videos and commercials, signed on to helm the project. It would be his second feature film. Proyas envisioned a gritty, stylized world that matched O'Barr's stark black-and-white artwork. The search for Eric Draven, the film's resurrected rock musician protagonist, began. Several actors were considered, including Christian Slater and Johnny Depp. But it was Brandon Lee who ultimately won the role. Lee saw The Crow as a chance to prove himself beyond action films. In a 1992 interview, he stated, "I'm looking for roles that have more depth, more dimension." Pre-production kicked off in early 1993. The budget was set at a modest $23 million. Wilmington, North Carolina was chosen as the primary shooting location for its Gothic architecture and cost-effectiveness. Lee immersed himself in preparation. He trained extensively, perfecting the movements of a man returned from the dead. The actor also contributed ideas to Eric's look, suggesting the iconic face paint design. Filming began on February 1, 1993, coincidentally Lee's 28th birthday. The shoot was grueling, with many night scenes and complex stunts. Despite the challenges, the cast and crew felt they were creating something special. Ernie Hudson, cast as Officer Albrecht, later recalled, "Brandon was so committed. He really believed in the project and gave it his all." As production progressed, minor accidents occurred on set. A carpenter was badly burned and a stuntman fell through a roof. These incidents, while concerning, were chalked up to the hazards of filmmaking. By late March, the film was nearing completion. Only 8 days of shooting remained. The cast and crew looked forward to wrapping up what they hoped would be a groundbreaking film. No one could have predicted the tragedy that lay ahead. The fateful day. March 31, 1993, started like any other day on The Crow set. The crew arrived at Carolco Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, ready for another night of filming. The schedule called for scene 331, a crucial moment where Eric Draven enters his apartment and discovers his fiancée being assaulted. Brandon Lee arrived on set around 6 p.m. in good spirits despite the long nights of filming. He joked with crew members as he got into costume and makeup. The iconic black attire and white face paint transformed him into Eric Draven one last time. Around midnight, the team prepared to shoot the scene. Actor Michael Massey, playing the villain Funboy, was to fire a .44 Magnum revolver at Lee as he entered the room. The gun was loaded with blanks, a standard practice for close-range shots. Cinematographer Alex Thompson set up the camera for a low angle, capturing Lee's entrance through the doorway. The crew did a few rehearsals without the gun to get the timing right. At approximately 12:30 a.m., director Alex Proyas called, "Action!" Lee burst through the door. Massey, on cue, pulled the trigger. A loud bang echoed through the set. Lee jerked backward and fell to the floor. At first, some thought he was just acting, but when he didn't get up, panic set in. Set decorator Tom Bellissimo was the first to reach Lee. He found the actor bleeding profusely from his abdomen. Bellissimo later recounted, "I saw a silver dollar-sized exit wound. I knew it was bad." The set erupted into chaos. Someone yelled to call 911. Props master Daniel Kuttner examined the gun, baffled by what had happened. How could a blank round cause such damage? Rushed to the hospital. As Brandon Lee lay bleeding on the set, time became critical. Paramedics arrived at 12:42 a.m., just minutes after the 911 call. They found Lee unconscious, his pulse weak and fading. EMT Robert Wren later recalled, "We knew it was bad the moment we saw him. The entry wound was small, but there was significant internal bleeding." The ambulance raced through Wilmington's empty streets, sirens blaring. At 1:03 a.m., they reached New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Emergency room staff, alerted to the incoming trauma, was ready. Dr. Warren McMurray, the on-call surgeon, immediately assessed Lee's condition. He'd lost nearly 60% of his blood volume, McMurray stated in a later interview. "We had minutes, not hours, to save him." Lee was rushed into surgery at 1:15 a.m. The medical team worked frantically to locate and repair the damage. They found the bullet had ricocheted inside his abdomen, causing extensive internal injuries. Over the next 6 hours, surgeons performed multiple procedures. They removed part of Lee's liver, repaired his abdominal aorta, and tried to stop the bleeding from numerous other wounds. Throughout the ordeal, Lee received over 60 units of blood, nearly replacing his entire blood volume 5 times over. Outside the operating room, Lee's fiancée Eliza Hutton and several cast members anxiously awaited news. Producer Ed Pressman arrived around 3 a.m., visibly shaken. At 7:15 a.m., Dr. McMurray emerged with an update. Lee was alive, but in extremely critical condition. The next 24 hours would be crucial. Despite the medical team's efforts, Lee's condition continued to deteriorate. His brain had been deprived of oxygen for too long during the initial blood loss. At 1:03 p.m. on April 1st, 1993, exactly 12 hours after arriving at the hospital, Brandon Lee was pronounced dead. The news devastated those waiting at the hospital. Eliza Hutton was inconsolable. Actor Ernie Hudson later said, "It felt unreal. Brandon was so full of life, and then suddenly he was gone." As word spread, the entertainment world reeled. Lee, on the cusp of stardom, had his life cut short at just 28 years old. The prop gun mishap. On the fatal night, the gun was loaded with blanks. Blanks contained gunpowder, but no bullet. When fired, they create a realistic flash and bang. The combination proved deadly. When Michael Massey fired the blank, its explosive force propelled the stuck bullet out of the barrel. It struck Lee with nearly the same force as a live round. Prop master Daniel Kuttner later testified, "We didn't check the gun before using it again. It's a mistake that will haunt me forever." Firearms expert Ken Tweed explained, "This type of accident is rare, but not unprecedented. It's why rigorous safety checks are crucial on any set using firearms." The revelation shocked the film industry. Many wondered how such a basic safety protocol could be overlooked. Actor Michael Massey, who pulled the trigger, was devastated. Though cleared of any wrongdoing, he took a year off acting. In a 2005 interview, he said, "I don't think you ever get over something like that." Initial investigation. Within hours of the shooting, Wilmington Police Department launched a full investigation. Detective Rodney Simmons took charge, arriving on set at 2:30 a.m. The scene was surreal, Simmons noted in his report. Lights were still on, cameras in place, but there was a somber stillness. Forensics expert Frank Kendall arrived at 4 a.m. to examine the weapon. His preliminary findings were puzzling. The barrel showed signs of obstruction, he reported. Something was in there before the blank was fired. As dawn broke, police expanded their investigation. They combed through production records, seeking any safety violations or previous incidents. District Attorney Jerry Spivey was briefed at 9 a.m. He ordered a thorough examination of the production's firearms procedures. Meanwhile, the film's producers faced tough questions. Ed Pressman stated, "Safety is always our top priority. We're cooperating fully to understand how this tragedy occurred." By midday, news of Lee's death reached the investigators. The case now shifted from an accident inquiry to a potential manslaughter investigation. Detectives interviewed cast and crew throughout the day. Most expressed shock and disbelief. Ernie Hudson told officers, "Brandon was always professional. He trusted the crew implicitly." As day turned to night, more questions than answers remained. How did a live round end up in a prop gun? Who was ultimately responsible? Detective Simmons summarized the challenge. "We're dealing with a complex chain of events. Every detail matters. Unraveling the technical failure." As the investigation progressed, forensic experts focused on the fatal prop gun. Their findings revealed a complex chain of errors that led to the tragedy. Ballistics expert Frank Kendall conducted a thorough examination. "We found a .44 caliber bullet lodged in the barrel," he reported. "It wasn't from the blank fired that night." The mystery deepened. How did a real bullet end up in a prop gun? The answer lay in events from weeks earlier. Props assistant David Beard admitted to creating dummy rounds for close-up shots. "We needed rounds that looked real on camera," he explained. "I removed the gunpowder but left the primers intact." This seemingly minor oversight proved critical. During an earlier scene, one of these improperly deactivated dummy rounds was loaded into the gun. When the trigger was pulled, the primer ignited, pushing the bullet into the barrel where it became stuck. Firearms specialist Ken Tweet explained the phenomenon. "This is known as a squib load. Without enough force to exit the barrel, the bullet remains lodged inside." Tweet continued. "When the blank was fired, its explosive force propelled the stuck bullet out of the barrel. Essentially, it became a live round." The investigation revealed no one had thoroughly checked the gun between uses. This critical lapse in safety protocol allowed the dangerous combination to go unnoticed. Prop master Daniel Kuttner faced tough questions. "We always check the guns," he insisted, "but we didn't look down the barrel. It's a mistake I'll regret forever." Industry experts weighed in on the rare but not unprecedented accident. Veteran armorer Bill Davis stated, "This type of incident is why we have strict safety guidelines. They were clearly not followed here." The technical failure exposed systemic issues in the production's safety procedures. Detective Simmons noted, "Multiple points of inspection were missed. It was a cascade of errors." As the full picture emerged, it became clear that no single person was solely to blame. Rather, a series of oversights and assumptions led to the fatal moment. The Lee family curse theory. As news of Brandon Lee's death spread, whispers of a family curse began to circulate. The eerie similarities between his fate and that of his father, Bruce Lee, fueled speculation. Bruce Lee died on July 20, 1973, at the age of 32. The official cause was cerebral edema, but controversy surrounded his sudden passing. Now, 20 years later, Brandon met a similarly unexpected end at 28. Tabloids seized on the coincidences. One headline screamed, "Lee family doomed, like father, like son." Such sensationalism distressed the grieving family. Some pointed to other tragic events. In 1965, Brandon's grandfather, Lee Hoi Chun, died suddenly. Brandon himself had a near-death experience as a child, nearly drowning in the family pool. Hong Kong filmmaker Ronnie Yu, who knew both Lees, commented, "In Chinese culture, we sometimes believe in generational misfortune, but I think it's just tragic coincidence." Occult enthusiasts drew parallels to the plot of The Crow itself, a story of a man returning from the dead. Online forums buzzed with theories about life imitating art. Brandon's mother, Linda Lee Cadwell, addressed the rumors in a 1994 interview. "There's no curse. It's a convenient explanation for people who don't want to face the reality of accidents and human error. James O'Barr, creator of the Crow comic, expressed frustration. Brandon's death was a preventable accident. Calling it a curse disrespects his memory and the safety issues it exposed. As years passed, the curse theory faded from headlines. However, it remained a persistent urban legend, resurfacing whenever the Lees were discussed. Martial arts historian Greg Lastropes offered perspective. The Lees' true legacy is their talent and impact on film. That's what should be remembered, not baseless rumors. While the curse provided a simple narrative, it obscured the complex realities of both deaths. Bruce's was likely due to an adverse reaction to medication, while Brandon's resulted from on-set negligence. Legal aftermath. The investigation into Brandon Lee's death concluded without criminal charges, but the legal repercussions were far from over. Civil lawsuits soon followed as various parties sought accountability for the tragedy. On October 26, 1993, Linda Lee Cadwell, Brandon's mother, filed a civil suit against 14 entities involved in the production. The defendants included Crowvision Inc., Carolco Pictures, and several individuals responsible for on-set safety. Attorney James Randolph Cheatham, representing Cadwell, stated, "This case is about gross negligence. Basic safety protocols were ignored, resulting in a preventable death." The lawsuit alleged multiple failures, including improper firearm handling, inadequate crew training, and cost-cutting measures that compromised safety. It sought unspecified damages for wrongful death and negligence. Carolco Pictures, already facing financial troubles, saw its insurance premiums skyrocket. The company filed for bankruptcy in 1995, partly due to the legal fallout from Lee's death. Michael Massey, the actor who fired the fatal shot, was named in the initial suit but later removed. His attorney, Robert Sulkin, commented, "Mr. Massey was as much a victim of the negligence as anyone else on set." The case never went to trial. In August 1994, out-of-court settlements were reached with all defendants. The exact amounts remained confidential, but sources estimated the total exceeded $10 million. Daniel Kuttner, the prop master, faced professional consequences. The incident led to his suspension from the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees Union for 2 years. The Screen Actors Guild pushed for stricter firearm regulations on sets. SAG spokesperson Mark Locker announced, "We're revising our safety bulletin on firearms to prevent future tragedies." In 1995, California passed new legislation requiring stricter licensing for theatrical firearm suppliers. The law, informally known as Brandon's Law, aimed to enhance accountability in the industry. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, conducted its own investigation. They issued citations to the production company for workplace safety violations, resulting in fines totaling $84,000. Film industry veteran John Pattison observed, "Lee's death was a wake-up call. It forced Hollywood to reassess how it handles on-set dangers." While the legal battles concluded, the incident's impact on film production safety practices continued to evolve. Many productions adopted stricter protocols, including mandatory safety meetings and enhanced firearm checks. The tragedy also sparked ongoing debates about the use of real firearms in filmmaking, with some advocating for their complete replacement with non-firing replicas and visual effects. Completing The Crow. With only 8 days of filming left when tragedy struck, the fate of The Crow hung in the balance. Paramount Pictures, the distributor, considered scrapping the project entirely. Producer Edward R. Pressman fought to complete the film. "Brandon put his heart and soul into this," he stated. "We owe it to him to finish it." After a 6-week hiatus, production resumed on April 27, 1993. Director Alex Proyas faced the daunting task of completing the film without its star. Special effects supervisor Kevin Yeager proposed an innovative solution, using digital technology to superimpose Lee's face onto a body double. This technique, cutting edge for 1993, had never been attempted on such a scale. Stunt doubles Chad Stahelski and Jeff Cadiente, who had worked closely with Lee, stepped in to complete his remaining scenes. Stahelski later reflected, "It was emotionally tough, but we wanted to honor Brandon's vision." The script underwent revisions to minimize Eric Draven's screen time in the final act. Writer David J. Sho recalled, "We had to be creative, using shadows and off-screen dialogue to maintain the character's presence. Visual effects company Dream Quest Images worked tirelessly to seamlessly blend the new footage with Lee's existing scenes. They used a combination of digital compositing and clever editing tricks. The budget for completing the film ballooned from $23 million to $31 million. Miramax, having taken over distribution from Paramount, committed the extra funds to ensure a quality final product. Post-production stretched into early 1994. Editor Dov Honig described the process as a delicate balancing act between technical challenges and emotional sensitivity. Music played a crucial role in maintaining the film's atmosphere. Graham Revell's haunting score and songs from bands like The Cure and Stone Temple Pilots helped bridge scenes where Lee's presence was limited. On May 11, 1994, The Crow premiered at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. The event was both a celebration of the film and a memorial to Lee. Critics praised the final product. Roger Ebert wrote, "Against all odds, The Crow emerges as a stylish thriller, a testimony to Lee's charisma and the dedication of the filmmakers." The film grossed over $50 million domestically, becoming a cult classic. Its success ensured that Brandon Lee's final performance would be remembered, not just for the tragedy surrounding it, but for its artistic merit.